You for coming to this great monthly meeting of the Mono Basin Historical Society. But before we start, I need to read something. The Mono Basin Historical Society acknowledges that our buildings and outdoor exhibition space are gathering places on the unceded ancestral land of the Kuzetica people, the traditional caretakers of their homeland. So that's what we've been working on, and it'll be stated at every meeting. And we're going to have a sign made for the museum. It'll be up for next year, I'm sure. Okay, so thank you so much. My name is Dave Swisher. I'm the president. We're going to try and keep things moving here for Mr. Frank and keep things going. So from now on, I believe the meetings will only be in Zoom because we don't know what the weather is going to be. We'd like to prepare so everybody can Zoom in and we can get it taken care of. And nobody's put their life out on the roads with what they might be. So, Dave Carl, would you like to talk about the history conference?
So the Eastern Sierra History Conference is an annual event. This will be the 8th one. It's held down in this year at Saracosa College in Bishop, and it'll be, now I'm going to stumble over the dates. It's October 27th, 28th, and 29th. That's a Friday, Saturday, 29th. There'll be some field trips. And I'll be speaking about about the Historical Society on Friday in the afternoon. And Bob Marks, who couldn't be here tonight, he's at a conference down south. He's on the agenda for Saturday morning. And he's going to be, we've all heard some of what he has to say about the water history of the Mono Basin, pre-Mono Lake Committee issues, pre-LA Department of Water and Power issues. So that's coming. And I'm sure there's still room to go. It costs, I think, $100 for seniors for the whole 2-day, 3-day thing. Anyway, look into it. It's a great time. Lots of good topics.
Thank you, Dave. We appreciate that. The picture you see up here is our Ghost of the Sagebrush dinner, which was an outstanding, fun night and the day the following after. So look for it next year. We don't know what we're doing, but it's going to be exciting.
I think I was actually supposed to give a report on that real quick, but the Ghost of the Sagebrush event was in August, and this year we again had our dinner, the Friday dinner at the Mono Inn, and it was a full house. This is the incredible Rusty Can raffle tables that Linda LaPierre puts together every year for this, and we had, I think, 90 people. And then you want to advance these pictures? Just keep them moving along. Excuse me. No, we can't. Okay, so just to get it done, so the next day we did a tour up Lundy Canyon and went all the way up eventually to the pool plant with the help of Southern California Edison. Oh, there we go. Program on Friday night was Leroy Vining himself showing up from the grave. David Woodruff, keep it moving. I'm going to be done in about 1 minute. So, yeah, we had great speakers on Saturday, starting at the pavilion. This is John Ellsworth. He's a really entertaining guy. Keep going. And we went to the headquarters campsite where the power company, Southern Sierra's power company, had their whole village. Oh, more people have arrived. And took people to see where the foundations were. Keep going. And this is the group that went up to the pool plant and walked over, and they opened those big doors and opened the gate to let us walk in and let us do this, let us speak. And that's Ellen King and Karen Gardner. Because it's really, really, really loud. The water is going through the Pelton wheel right there. So making electricity. It was a good day. And as they all have been usually. And next year we'll do something else that has yet to be determined. So.
Thank you, Dave. That was a fun weekend. It always is. Very knowledgeable. Linda, I understand we have some new donations at the museum.
Yes, we got quite a few interesting things this year, very interesting. One of them is a cradle board that we do not have in our basket collection before, called a hoob. That's the name of them in Paiute. And it was made by tell me. Lula, thank you. Lula Hess and Mildred Hess. And so it's been put in the Hess cabinet with the other baskets. So come in and see it next year. Also, a photo was given to us of the penstock coming out of Ellery Lake into the pool plant. And it was given to us by Steve Wilson, and he grew up there. And that was why he had the photo. So we have it hung. And then the best thing we got was the Hess family gave us a gramophone and 33 records to play on this gramophone. And most of the music in these records is like of the 20s, because the records patent date is in the 1919. So I imagine the gramophone is too. And it was given to us by Vanessa and Heidi, and they said that it was played when they were growing up. I'm not sure if it was Augie that bought it or if it was Gus, but anyway, it's a part of the Hess family's donation, and we have it. We've been playing it, so it's a lot of fun. It works.
Thank you, Linda. Outstanding for the great new additions. Everybody has to go down to the museum and take a look at them. Especially in the case, I'm sure that Lenore went and redid and made it all nice and pretty for all those new baskets. It was a group effort. Thank you. Well, now, Miss Lenore, it is visitors and repairs.
Yeah, so year-end totals through the museum was 2,700 people between May and October 1st, the Memorial Weekend and October 1st. As far as repairs go, museum repairs, Pete the painter completed the exterior painting of the museum, and that was paid for by the generous donation from Elizabeth Butler and her son Fred. So we are thanking them still. Let's see, as far as ongoing work, we still need to re-roof the shed and repair the door. So that's still to be done before winter sets in.
I'd like to give a special thanks to Chris, who's here, for helping with the bell tower on top, getting it up on top and working so our statement of a school bell will always be there. Cole, do you have something for the newsletter tonight?
Well, I'm going to be doing the next newsletter, and if anybody has any notices they want to put in, celebrations, or ideas for great stories, please let me know. And if you don't know how to get a hold of me, can they write the curator and they will send it on to me. Thank you.
Deadline.
Oh. Halloween.
Deadline should be November 1st. So you can handle one day. We can do that. That's okay. Okay, we're going to have a trustee meeting. Rich?
Trustees are elected. There's a yearly election where half of the trustees are elected. It's a 2-year term. And currently up for re-election are Robert Marks, Dave Carl, Barry McPherson, and Richard Foy. So if you have a hankering to throw your hat in the ring, please submit your desire along with a short bio, and we will be soliciting all members for the election. And that election will happen in November, in early November, and we'll count the votes at the November trustees meeting. One of the other things that the trustees do is that we hire and fire at will. all the officers. And we are understanding that Linda LaPierre, after, what is it, 18 years, needs a break for some reason. So we will have to first accept her resignation, because that only happens during the trustees meetings, and then appoint a new historian if we possibly can find one. Bob Marks. So that will be happening during that meeting. But while we have people here, we wish to give Linda a few things, tokens of our appreciation. This has been handed to me, so we'll start with the booze. A certificate of appreciation and some wrapped things that you can open at your leisure, and the thanks of all of us. And if I can figure out how to do it. Oh, go ahead.
Well, can you go back and hand her that certificate and
Oh,
do a
okay.
picture of that moment?
All right.
Yeah, let's get a picture.
Oh, okay.
There
Here.
she is.
Let me-
How about both Dave and Rich giving it?
Okay. Okay.
Maybe.
Where am I?
one of you-
I know that, yeah. We could have dressed up.
Okay, Linda, you can hold the certificate.
Okay,
or
there we go.
just-
That's
yes,
good. All right.
If you can put your hands back on it, like you give it
Oh.
to her. Now, I've done this a few times. Here we go. 1, 2. I like that you're laughing. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you all, everybody. It wasn't just me, it was a group effort. So I think it's time for some new ideas and just Bob Marks, I asked, and he said he would be glad to do it. So I think he's going to be a good one. And I'll still be coming to meetings and be a part of the Historical Society. So thank you all.
And one other thing, we have some pictures appropriate. There's a sensational one, but we have a wall that Linda's photograph will be joining very shortly. What's that?
Well, I thank everyone for being here. That rounds us up for our great, outstanding, superior speaker for tonight, Mr. Frank Cassidy, to talk about the log cabin mine.
Thank you, sir. Down the mine.
Yeah.
This is Robin, Frank's wife. And while Frank's getting up, I just want to talk to you a little bit about him because I'm pretty proud of him. Frank was the first graduate from Lee Vining High School to go to a major university in 1955. And he went from here to not just a university, but to Cal Berkeley. And his mom told me that when they dropped him off, and she said, well, first of all, we had no idea what we were doing. And so we didn't get a good dorm room. And he was in they called a co-op. And they left him there and they looked at each other and said, we may have just led a lamb to slaughter. And since he left his graduating class of 5, and he was a valedictorian, I might say, which he always liked to tell his children, who then pointed out that his graduating class was a 5. And 1955. And they were from Berkeley to the Air Force, and then on to veterinary school. And that's where I had the pleasure of meeting him, not in veterinary school, but I actually went to work for him. And then once told him that he didn't have enough money to pay me, so he had to marry me. And I'm really glad he didn't have enough money to pay me because we've had a wonderful 46 years together.
46.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted you to know about this wonderful man, and it's pretty special to have grown up at that mine. And he brought me here in the 70s, late 70s, and I said, I could live here. And he said to me, you will as soon as I retire. And that's what we did. So here you go, honey.
Thank you so much. And I think I have this mic. Is this hot?
Yeah, here, I'll take that.
You only need one. You only get one.
And my glasses.
Need glasses.
No, I tell you, I've got an introduction. Then we'll do the movie, if that's okay. Okay, it's good, great to see all of you here. Thank you, David. Where'd you go? Thank you, Sarah. So it's a real honor to be asked here to talk about one of my favorite subjects. That's the log cabin mine. At age 85, I have trouble remembering where I put my car keys, but I have vivid memories of the log cabin mine. I have two references that I'm going to use tonight. One is the movie, The Log Cabin Mine, From Mine to Mint, which is shown at the Levining Visitor Center in Levining twice per day. Our movie guru, Rich Foy, will show it to us shortly. The other reference I'm going to use is my book, Gold Mine in the Sky, A Personal History of the Log Cabin Mine. I have copies available for purchase tonight, which I will be happy to sign for you, and all proceeds go to the Mono Basin Historical Society. I would like to give credit to the Eastern Sierra Interpretive Association, excuse me, whose past director, Debbie Iltz, was instrumental in the making of this movie, as well as John Kazmersky, the Forest Service ranger at that time, and he had a great interest in the log cabin mine. So without further ado, I will ask Rich to show the movie, The Log Cabin Mine, From Mine to Mint.
It's a hard job, but it gets into your blood, and you really enjoy doing it.
First snowfall, they would have to haul in all the oil and beef, they had a shack there for the beef, and of course eggs and all that kind of stuff they had to haul in and get ready for winter, long winter, very long winter.
My goodness, that truck, it'd make it down from the mine with chains on all four wheels. Clink, 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 clink. They'd come into town, and everybody in town would say, here comes Frank, it's time for him to come home.
To me, I think that the phone line was so important because once a week or once a day I could talk with my dad, and even though I was a small child, I knew that, he was in a dangerous position, and that phone always gave me the comfort that I needed.
I have a very interesting book here, if I can go a little bit. It's called A Barter's Book. You could always tell who the person was that was in the barter book, because if it was a miner, he'd buy a fifth of whiskey and a plug of tobacco, and if it was a farmer and he had children at home, he would buy some candy, trade for candy.
The summers on Log Cabin Mine were really beautiful, just wonderful. And then the winters were pretty rough on everyone. But I never did hear any of the miners complain.
In 1890, the first gold was discovered here in the Levining area. which later became the Log Cabin Mine.
Jim Simpson and his brother John Simpson, while they were eating lunch, a squirrel was digging around there, and Jim Simpson thought he saw some sparkling coming out, this ground where this squirrel was digging. And he went over to investigate where the squirrel was digging, and it had to have little gold in it. And I understand that's how the Simpson mine got started.
In 1909, the Simpson brothers found the vein that later became the Log Cabin Mine. They operated the mine here on a limited basis using probably what were the early buildings, the log cabins that were located here. They later sold their mine in 1930, and that's when the more modern era of mining development took place here.
My father was hired by Frank Garbett in 1939 as the general superintendent of the log cabin mine. He had many responsibilities up here, but he came up in 1940. The mine ran full tilt, 1940, 41, 42. The milling records met our record. A lot of gold was taken out of here, and during that time, it was the largest gold-producing mine in the state of California. Now, the mine shut down during World War II by executive order. They reopened it in 1946, and the mine was worked in 46, 47, and 48, but the tonnage gradually decreased. And then in 1948, it became not profitable for Frank Garbett to run the mine full tilt. So from then on, it's really been a maintenance operation, but keeping this mine in complete readiness, the price of gold to go up from $32 an ounce, and it would have been running full tilt in 2 days because it was ready. I'm standing in front of the bunkhouse of the log cabin mine, which housed up to 72 men. You can imagine if 72 men working round the clock, 3 shifts, this place was abuzz. They had to be supplied with food and other necessities. Those were brought up by truck in the summer, and they were from Levining area, also from the local ranchers in the Mono Basin. But in the winter, the supplies would have to be transported up on people's backs, on snowshoes, in snow drifts as high as 25 feet. As we have seen, there is much heavy equipment up here and much construction, for instance, the head frame, the gallows frame. All this heavy equipment was brought up in trucks up the hill by Gus and Billy Hess.
We'd have to haul timber up there, for the mines. And it's 8 by 8 timber, long. Put them on these trucks, and I'd drive one, and we'd go up past this lodge up there, then it gets pretty steep. You start going up there, and the front end of the truck would go like that. Kind of scary. But finally, I never had no accident, but we always made it, but it gets pretty scary sometimes.
A lot of the people came into the area wanting to get into the mining business, but they found out that there was more money in selling produce and livestock and meat to the miners than there were being miners themselves. We on our ranch grew anywhere up to 5 acres of potatoes. Also raised in this basin was watermelons, cantaloupes, and a lot of fresh fruit was growing here in the basin. And the miners were just craving that type of food.
The log cabin mine shaft was approximately 400 feet deep. There were 4 levels. The The top 3 levels were really where most of the mining took place, removing the gold from the quartz ore. The bottom level, which was very wet, the depth of the water was probably about 6 inches. It drained out via a long tunnel down the hill, emptied out into Thompson Creek. And very cold down there, a lot of water, and hard work. I'm holding on to the bell cable, which runs all the way to the bottom of the mine and runs up topside into the hoist operators area to a set of bells. This is the only means of communication that we had from the mine to indicate to the hoist operator when to hoist the cars up or the men up and whether to deposit the ore here at the surface and out to the dump or up topside to be processed for gold.
I got a job there in 1939. I remember this, and I was a mucker. The miners would go down and drill and blast. Then when the air cleared up pretty good, they sent the muckers down in there, and I was one of the muckers to muck this here ore out of there. They had a big shaft there, and they had four levels, and we'd have to go down there and shovel this ore into the car, little railroad cars they had there, and then push it out this shaft, and then take it up and dump it up, you know, in the big bin up there.
The ore to be processed for gold was hoisted up to that point up there with the corrugated tin, wheeled over on rails and dumped into this first holding bin, which contained a large rock crusher at the bottom, which crushed the rock into a prescribed diameter. Then from there, it went up this long conveyor belt up to that top, dumped into that storage bin, which contained another rock crusher at the bottom, which further crushed the rock into probably half-inch diameter. From there, it went on a conveyor belt up to the mill, to the ball mill. The ore containing the gold was fed into the ball mill, which was a huge rotating drum with probably about 750 steel balls, continually grinding the ore. And water was added, and what came out the other side of the ball mill was a slurry, which of course contained the gold. This slurry was run over a series of plates that were coated with quicksilver. And this process went on for a continual 48 hours. At the end of that time, the mill would shut down. These plates would be scraped with the quicksilver and the gold combined. This mixture would be placed in a big iron container or urn, roasted, if you will, over a fire to a certain temperature for so many hours. The quicksilver boiled off. What was left was the proverbial pot of gold. That was boxed up in a design fashion by my father, sealed, and these were all done under regulations, the Bureau of Mines. That box then went down the hill with my father driving, 2 shotgun guards guarding him. It was deposited at the U.S. Post Office in Levining, and from there it went to the mint.
They were happy to have a job in those days, and the going rate was $4 an hour. During the winter, the wives were down here with our families, and we had no help in the deep snows, and we had to fend for ourselves. And quite often the phones to the mine were out, but we just were used to taking care of our own problems, and everything went along fine.
The way that people lived in those days, it was a hard life for a lot of those miners. Like you said, they worked hard, and they lived hard, and they played hard.
I played a trumpet, my brother played a saxophone, my sister played the piano, my dad played a French horn, and we had to get a drummer, outside drummer, and a banjo player. And we made music every Saturday night. All those miners, CC camp, they all got together. Of course, they all started drinking.
Question I asked my dad one time, what did he do for fun? And he says, work. I says, oh, you must have did something. He says, well, on Friday nights we'd go to Mono Inn and we'd have a big dinner, and then we'd play cards, and then we'd dance until 4 o'clock in the morning, then go back to the ranch and sleep 2 hours and do our chores, and then Saturday evening we'd ride back into the Levining and attend the dance and the party in Levining.
Okay. Looks like I'm there, partially anyway. Yeah, and don't we have this slide coming up here? No problem. Take your time, sir. There you go. All right. Okay, so the log cabin mine, the rest of the story. After my father's passing in 1968, the Garbett family decided to donate the mine to the Boy Scouts, and they eventually built the log cabin wilderness camp. While the Boy Scouts had the mine, they employed Clarence Miller as the mine caretaker. They also tried leasing the mine to different mining companies, but they were never able to make a go of mining at that elevation. As you may have noticed in the movie, the large flume-like structure above the mine road leading to the first storage bin. This was built by one of the companies leasing the mine, and they planned on bulldozing the ground and tailings and then transporting the material through the structure and into the rock crushers. I refer to these mining attempts as fly-by-nighters. In 1991, the Forest Service acquired the mine property through a complicated land trade that included Mammoth Mountain. In 2003, concerned local citizens, many of them being Mono Basin Historical Society members, along with our friend Ranger John Kazmersky, formed work parties to repair damage to the mine. The Forest Service has not been able to provide adequate funding to prevent decay and vandalism of the mine and its structures. Now we have a few slides to show you, and then after the slides I will be happy to try to answer any questions concerning the mine. Okay, where it all started. Jim Simpson built this cabin in what we call Simpson Meadow. Each time we go up for a visit, we see remnants of people sleeping in the cabin and fire rings. It is amazing how fire rings can be destroyed and then people will rebuild them even though they are not legal. My parents spent their first summer at the mine in a large canvas tent in Simpson Meadow, not far from this cabin. I was just a toddler, but have heard many stories of their times in the meadows. Oh, and I have heard some stories. Thank you. Okay, the first photo is of the skip where men would be lowered down into the mine and then of course raised back up when they were through with their work. I remember many times when I would be home from college and working in the mine, I would look at Clarence Miller, the hoist operator, and think, Clarence, please let me down easy. Later, Clarence was the caretaker at the mine for the Boy Scouts, and when I would visit, he was very proud that he kept the mine and the structures in a way that my dad would have been very happy with. The next photo, okay, is of the shaft cave-in taken in this photo was taken in 2020. There are no remnants of the skip left. The Forest Service has attempted to put a chain link fence around the cave, but it too has taken damage through the years. Thank you. Okay, this is the bunkhouse. This is a little tough for me to look at. The bunkhouse is now completely open. The doors at both levels are open with signs of people spending the night in the building. My dad used to store as many drawings of the mine where the table is in the lower photo. It is hard to believe that my dad built a boat in the lower level of the bunkhouse so that he could take me water skiing on Mona Lake. To this day, I'm not sure how he and Pete Matthew got that boat out of there, but it was sure fun to water ski on Mona Lake. And this is the meat house. The first photo is a real good one of the meat house and when it was still closed to people getting inside. The next one is of the large freezer my dad installed in the back of the meat house, along with storage shelves for other foods. As you can see from the last two photos, time has definitely taken its toll. There was a fire ring and remnants of people staying in the meat house when we were up there this August. Yeah. Oh. We need the shop one you gave me.
There you go.
There you go. Okay. That is my dad's shop. And this is another tough one for me to see. Lots of memories here. This view is from the back wall. The roof and back wall have collapsed through the years. We stored my bike in the upstairs loft, which you can see where the label is there. And I'll always remember how my dad had everything organized in cubby holes and bins to work on machinery at the mine. And you can see the label there on those. Okay, now we get to the hoist house. And the building is completely exposed to people going into the building, but incredibly and thankfully, it's the least vandalized. The first picture is a view of the hoist house from behind the hoist operator's seat. You can see the window that the hoist operator can look out, see the miner as he is about to lower into the mine or bring back up from the bottom. And you can see there are levers there. One is the clutch, the other is the brake. And then over on the wall is switch boxes for some pretty potent juice coming through 440, 880 types of juice to get that cable wound up on that drum. And the second picture taken from the front door of the hoist house shows the Ingersoll Rand air compressor that Frank Garbutt had installed to pump air down into the mine for the safety of the miners. The next picture shows the air storage tank and the pipe leading down into the mine transport the air for miners to use on the equipment and also for breathing purposes. That's the storage. Oh, okay. No problem. Sure. The air tank or what? Oh. So the injuries at what time now? When?
Were there any injuries or health problems due to the mercury?
Not that I know of. No, even though the signs are still posted, for mercury poisoning in the soil down by the mill. Not that I know of. And as Robin says, I'm still here. Not really, not at the time. I don't think we realized that the mercury was really a danger to the health. Back? Okay. So now we're in the tank or where? There we go. Really? Okay. The last photo then is of the storage and charging area for the batteries that powered the headlamps for the miners. The chart shows how long a battery needed to be charged and how many hours and minutes of light it would give the miner. As an example, 1 hour of charge gave the miner 40 minutes of light, and 8 hours of charge gave them 5 hours and 20 minutes. The chart was still there in 2020, but unfortunately no longer is there now. Can you fix this job? Thank you. All right.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is what.
So, okay. Well, we can start right there. Okay. This first photo is of the first rock crusher below the storage bin. The giant chains crushed the rock and then deposited the ore onto the long conveyor belt that deposited the ore in the second storage bin, which fed into the second rock crusher, which then fed the ore into the short conveyor belt and then up into the ball mill. And as a kid, I enjoyed racing up and down that ramp next to the long conveyor belt, at least until my dad caught me. Okay. But the ball mill, oh, there is the ball mill. And so now we have the ball mill. The ball mill was a giant rotating drum that contained many metal balls, further crushing the ore. The middle photo is of the large motor along with the belts which operated the ball mill. And you can see those belts and the size of that motor for sure. The last photo is of the box that took the slurry from the ball mill to the series of plates that we saw in the movie. This area of the mill was found to be contaminated with mercury in the soil. There is a sign stating the contamination. The mill building is completely open to the public, with many signs of people going through the mill. Thank you. So here are a few pictures of the mine over the past few years. The buildings have definitely seen decay through the years. And so even though the buildings are deteriorating and the mine shaft is caved in, there's no doubt what a beautiful place the log cabin mine is. The first picture is the view of Mono Lake from my dad's road. That is the road along the side of the mountain that my dad, along with Pete Matthew, Clarence Miller, and me, as helpers, built to avoid the steep terrain of the first road after Berger's retreat. I am one very lucky person to have been able to grow up there. And thank you for your interest in the log cabin mine and your support of the Mono Basin Historical Society. I'd like to conclude with just saying how I deeply wish the Forest Service would partner with the Mono Basin Historical Society to close up these buildings and help prevent further decay and vandalism. Thank you, and I'll take questions if you have them.
Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask Mr. Frank? Yes, we have one right here.
That was great, Frank. Thank you so much. You ended by saying that you wish there was a partnership to save the buildings. What could be done to help restore the buildings or save them? Is there anything any of us can do?
Well, I would hope that perhaps signs could be posted up onto the outside of the buildings, such as the hoist house, perhaps plexiglass over the sign protecting it, indicating that it's the hoist house, and then various signs on some of the various pieces of equipment and whatnot. That's one thing. And then the other thing, I guess, is just educating the public, like we are here, to the mine situation and how valuable it is to a historical structure. And hopefully things are going to happen.
Another thing that we could be doing, if the Forest Service would agree to allow it, is for us to go up there and close some of these buildings up. The doors have all been just kicked in, and if we could close them up, and then of course the windows have been broken as well. I've seen some areas where they've put like a cage or material so that people can look through, but not break into the buildings. And so many people that have come to the museum and have said, why is it like this. You know, there's this giant opening waiting for a child to fall in. Now, yes, there is a falling down fence around it, but obviously the person that took the photo of the cave-in was right by the cave-in. It was not us. And but the person that sent it to us got right very close to it. So that's a danger. But I think as long we've tried through the years, I think when everything was just closed, curiosity is too much for people. And there is maps all over how to get to the log cabin mine. So people are going to go up there. So if we were to able to do something where people could look in, see the machinery, but not get into the buildings, not live in the buildings. There were multiple photographs of coffee cups, coffee creamer, mattresses of people living up there or sleeping up there. And then the fire rings are what is really frightening.
I know you have gone up with the Forest Service just in recent years with some of their staff. And some of the staff maybe has come and gone. Different people are around. It's really important that we figure out, the Historical Society, I think, figure out who to communicate with to put the pressure on, to offer to help as we have in here and in other places around the basin. But at what level do we need to start now? The president?
Well, I think I'll point out that the Forest Service does have a gate across the road approaching the mine, probably a couple, 300 yards up from the mine. That gate functions partially anyway, that some people are able to take ATVs, I believe, around the edges and get down to the mine. But there is some protection from this gate. Forest Service at least is trying, but they could do more, right?
Okay, we have another question.
I think to answer Dave's question as far as the who do we get to pressure to do the pressuring, I think our chairman of our board has sent 2 letters. Have you? 1 or 2 to the Forest Service? Yes. Yes.
I will be doing some investigations with the BLM Forest Service office in Bishop, which it's all headed out of. And I have some contacts down there. And I'm going to see what I can find out, because I've offered before, I'll take my truck and plywood and I can lock things up. No one can kick them in.
Well, we would appreciate that.
And I know I can get some crews to come with me. Hang on a moment.
The college, Claremont McKenna College, has an educational reserve in all of the 160 acres. And this summer, we had 7 students who came to a meeting here. And they said that on some weekdays, they would count how many cars went up. And sometimes it would be as many as 50. And it just seems to me that it's like a mini boaty up there, except without any protection. And if there were just some way, for your information, in 2024, for the first time, the 320 Forest Service cabins in the Eno, 85% of their yearly fee, which comes to $940,000, will be going to the Forest Service. Now, they'll be doing things for the cabins, but it'll be budget relieving in other ways that they could maybe consider having someone up there on the weekends.
As a docent,
It's
perhaps.
just a shame because people are picking up stuff and, but 50 cars a day on the rickety tickety road, and trucks are going up.
When we were up in August, I don't think I've ever seen as many vehicles through all the years of going up there. And of course the ATVs. And now we have an ATV. Now, when we bought it, they did tell us that we were supposed to take it over 10 miles an hour. And I don't know if he has yet or not, but, because you take the beauty in. There are some people that can't. We used to walk up there. We can't anymore. And there was a gentleman behind us. I was driving and he was honking his horn. And he said, "I've been eating your dust." And I thought, well, I didn't even think I made any dust. But, because people tend to roar up those roads, I think it would be helpful if even if the Forest Service said, we will allow volunteers. I think that's part of our reluctance as citizens is this is their property. And if we go up and start closing up their buildings, are they then going to go, you're trespassing? Where in 2003, when the groups were going up there, it was a joint effort with the Forest Service.
And that was really, according to the ranger at the time, John Kazmierski, who really felt he had feelings for the mine. And so it wasn't an official Forest Service type of involvement. It was one ranger that really loved the mine. And that's how that happened.
Okay, any other questions in the room?
We'll get to the Zoom questions in just a moment.
I have a suggestion that the Historical Society at some time try to work with the Forest Service to make an interpretive effort up there. You mentioned plexiglass on the doors and identify and make it instead of just an abandoned mine, make it a destination for people to visit. And I think that would change maybe the attitude towards it.
I think you're right.
I do too.
The issue there was when John Kazmierski was here, that was his plan. But, and they had actually worked on with Frank sketches of what the mine looked like when it was fully functional. And, but when they found the mercury, they didn't want to encourage people to to go there. And that was why, Debbie, I think that's why he created, you guys made the movie, correct? Was he said, let's bring the mine to the people. But I think, now fast forward, 18 years or so, now what we have is a society that everything is right at our fingertips with our phones, and there are maps and pictures and how to get there and that the buildings are exposed, and you can go in and you can look at all of this stuff. So I don't think that in today's world that actually works anymore. I think that putting, the signs up that say this is the area where mercury was found, stay away. There's plenty of other areas to walk through. So maybe you're right, Linda. Maybe that's the approach maybe to take with the Forest Service again is this a possibility?
So Linda, at the time, Ranger Kazmierski arranged to have interpretive signs posted around, explaining what this structure was, that structure, whatnot. So that was really an attempt, but it was by a concerned ranger. I'm not sure if we pose these questions to the Forest Service now, why can't we get those people to be interested also?
That's a very good question, Frank. Deschambault Ranch, we have storyboards up there that people go and read, and they're not destroying the buildings down there because they're learning the story about the ranch. So we needed to work out some type of format that we can use at the mine so people can be informed when they go up there and not just say, oh, this is an open area in the mine. we need to control it. So I want to address a question that came in. And Frank, this is mainly addressed to you. And if I can find out where it went, where did the power come from for the mine?
Where did the what?
The power.
Oh, good question. Good question. This was when Frank Garbett in 1938, when he, after a legal battle with Gould Corporation, when he not inherited, but when he acquired, good word, acquired the mine. And at that time, he had made, in order to wrest control from the Gould Corporation, he said, I will do three things. I will run 100 kV line from Tioga Lodge area, tap into the 100 kV line there, run it up the hill and to a station at the mine. And so that was one concession that he was making. The other one was that he was going to construct a new improved ball mill, which you'll see the result of in these pictures. And I'm trying to remember the third thing. There you go. It was the Ingersoll Rand air compressor. So those three things he was able to present to the court so that he was able to wrest control from the Gould Corporation. Three things.
Frank, thank you so much. Another question came up. The road must be understood, though it is absolutely need a four-wheel drive to get there. ATVs can get there, but you must have a four-wheel drive if you're going up the one part by Burgers Resort. It's not long, but there's about 100 feet, and it is some of the nastiest four-wheel drive road I have ever come across. I blew out the steering on my Toyota on that road. So be careful going up there.
Very careful.
We need to do that. Are there any other? Okay. One says chain link fence over the doors and windows. Yes, that's something we would like to do, is solid type fencing over that can be nailed in or screwed into the walls. The miller you referred to, did they have any link to the millers in Bodie? Norm was a cousin of my mom's. My grandfather was born in Bodie, son of William Miller, Miller Boarding House, which was Annie Miller.
So this is Clarence. Is he related to anybody in Bodie?
No, not that I know of. And he didn't come from the Bodie area. Clarence came from somewhere in the middle of the valley and was actually related to Eloise. What was her last name? Well, Eloise. Anyway, Clarence was related by marriage to people that actually owned the mine. So that's how he became the caretaker, really, Clarence. But he loved my father. They had many years of he respected my dad highly, and so he was there for years.
I was told a story that Eloise came up with Clarence. Eloise was his wife, and she promptly turned around and left. And Clarence stayed.
We have a quick question over here.
Thanks, Frank and Robin, very much. In the film, you talked about the slurry water going down Thompson Creek. I think that's the name you used. Which creek is that?
Well, I tell you what, it's a good question because having seen this movie quite a few times, and where the water coming out of the drain tunnel, which is a 1,500-foot long tunnel at the bottom of the mine, and of course there is water down there, so it has to drain out some way, and it drains out this 1,500-foot drain tunnel into Thompson Creek. Well, it's above Tioga Lodge, I believe. And so
Is it actually the creek that drains down to the rural cabin? that follows the power line?
Pardon me?
It's the creek that drains down to the Judge Rural cabin that follows the power line up the
Yeah,
hill.
I believe
That's where
so.
that water comes from. Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I believe
Thanks.
so.
Thanks a lot.
You know, something interesting. Our daughter-in-law was at, I think it was a soccer game, she said, and she was talking to a fellow from SCE, and he said, we still we maintain those power lines. So he was here maintaining the power lines to the mine. And she just was fascinated by that. She said, well, you know that it's really dangerous up there and all this stuff. And she goes, and he said, yeah, but that's our job.
But you know, can you imagine splicing into a 100 kV line running by a Tioga Lodge and then running it up the canyon to, you know, the the station, substation. Yeah, it was a substation receiving the 100 kV. And of course, they broke that down into 880, 440, 240, 110. Oh, quite the operation. Yes, ma'am.
What was your job when you worked at the money?
Hard worker. My father, he didn't spare any. You know, he wasn't tyrannical. But anyway, I worked down in the mine, and I would go down with like Pete Matthew and others and help them down there. Really, it was a maintaining situation, and there were, as you might imagine, quite a few cave-ins from time to time, because it wasn't just complete hard rock. It was timbered with sets of poles and 2x12s. And so my job would be to go down and help Pete Matthew do whatever. And so I'd spend quite some time down there.
I'd just like to tell the rest of that story. And they did have another shaft, an incline shaft that they called the Lakeview. And Frank was the hoist operator for that shaft. And so from what I have heard is it was a great opportunity to work on one's tan while Pete Matthew was in the incline shaft. So that's the rest of the story. as any good college student would want to do.
Okay. Mr. Frank, we have another question. Was cyanide also used for amalgamation or only mercury? Cyanide is normally used after the mercury process.
Was cyanide used?
Yes, was cyanide used?
Well, it wasn't used at the time, but there are remnants of a cyanide plant that they're still up there. There are pictures of that actually, and I believe in the Mine movie. And they were going to build the cyanide plant, and that was going to extract up to about 18% of the gold from the ore, or I'm sorry, 80%. And so where conventional methods, for instance, the ball mill and the tincture of mercury and whatnot, but the cyanide plant was going to be the final method, if you will, for extracting up to 80% of the gold. Never got built. My dad passed away really before that could happen in 1968.
I know the amalgamation process does extract about 60% of the gold with the mercury, but the cyanide can up to 15 to 18 to 20% more in addition from the same tailings. So it's nice to know it's there, but never used.
Right, and you know, you saw the process in the movie of the gentleman scraping the plates. Well, believe it or not, that was Frank Garbett. So he wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty up there. And anyway, they would scrape the the gold would combine with the tincture of mercury, forming a compound called amalgam. And that amalgam is what would be scraped and put into these urns and roasted, boiling the mercury off and leaving the pot of gold.
Oh, we have another question, Dave.
So in the movie, I've always been puzzled. They show what you just described, and then they show a ball. Is that how it was packaged and sent away as those balls, or was it? I'm more familiar with the idea of ingots.
Okay, your
bars.
question is showing a ball, the ball of gold?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, what they did is they put that ball into a box, a wooden box, which was sealed up according to Bureau of Mines standards. The box was sealed up. And then that's what would be transported down the hill with the armed guards and to the post office. Then it wasn't their ball game anymore. It was the U.S. Post
That was
Office.
it. I asked Frank's mom one time, I said, well, Mom, what happened when it got to the post office? She said, no longer our problem. There's a question here about where can you get the movie? It's on YouTube. And if you go to the MBHS website, monobasinhistory.org, and hit videos, and then go to our YouTube page, there's under our playlist is the this video.
I thank you so much. I'm looking if there's any other questions. What dollar value of gold was taken out of the mine, Frank?
Well, that's a good question, but at one time I know it was the largest gold producing mine in California. And that's a fact. Look it up.
And it went up until the late 1940s.
Well, in 1946, 47, 48, those were the last years that the mine was actually worked. And so post-war, of course, but those 3 years. And but the tonnage gradually decreased over those 3 years. And then at that time, it wasn't profitable for the Garbets to run the mine anymore. So it was just kept open as in anticipation of the price of gold going above $32 an ounce, which it didn't until I think 1971.
In case anybody's wondering, in 1942, the government put out a mandate. There will be no gold and silver mining within the United States, only lead and copper. Those employed at the gold and silver mines were transferred to lead and copper mines around the country because of the current war. That's why everything stopped.
It was just gold.
Just gold?
Silver miners sent to go to other mines.
Okay.
The Cassidy family was sent to Chloride, Arizona.
Chloride, Arizona, to the Tennessee Schuylkill mine.
Hey, that was a good pronunciation.
Well, stop
There's-
beating.
There's another question. What were people getting paid? Lily Matthews said that the miners were paid $4 an hour.
That was great money back then.
Not bad then.
Any other questions? Does everyone understand online and hear what the ball mill does? Okay. As long as they understand that, because we talked about that. Well, Frank, you have done just an awesome job. Your knowledge is beyond belief. You and I have talked many times about this, had many conversations, but you're such a gem and a value to this community to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm very pleased to be here. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
I think we all owe Frank another great big hand. Even those on Zoom land.